Okay, so let's get into the chorus. We're going to talk about all of the music. I'm actually going to play through this entire chorus, or I'll start with the first half, and then I'm going to play the second half, but I'm only going to talk about the music at first. I want to get through all of the musical stuff because there's some interesting musical things happening here. So let's just play the chorus.
You're taking me out of the ordinary. I want you laying me down to a dead and buried.
Okay, so immediately there is a piano. The piano is still playing here, which again sets that somber, low, bassy tone. But this time it's playing long notes, and there's a degree of reverb and space being added to it, which creates it gives it a lot of atmosphere, or it sets the atmosphere, right? Then on top of that, you get a kick and snare, but it's actually, I don't think it's actually a kick and a snare. I think it's maybe a different type of percussive instruments. I mean, it might be a kick and a snare like on a drum kit. I only say this because an actual drum kit comes in the second half, and you can clearly hear the difference between the kick and the snare there and what it is here. This sounds more like maybe a beatbox or something mixed in with claps. So here, take a listen to the percussion.
The ordinary. I want you laying me down to a dead and buried.
So even that snare, right? Like your snare is usually what pops the most, and it just has a lot of energy. In this case, the snare is very like toned down. It's very it's mixed in such a way to sound big and intense. Or it sounds big and spacey, but it's not intrusive, and it's not popping out at you, right? So take another listen, and I stress again the low frequencies. They very much made the snare like a full bassy warm sound, as opposed to like what you would hear in metal, which is very sharp and like cha cha cha, like really in your face. So yeah, take a listen.
I want you laying me down to a dead and buried. On the edge.
Like it almost sounds like wood knocking or something. It's really cool. I know I'm going all on the snare, but I just like the way it sounds, and I like the way that it transitions into the full drum kit on the second half of the chorus. Okay. On top of that, he's got soft harmonies that come in each ear, which is really cool. It elevates this section, clearly distinguishing it from the part before. It's pretty common to add harmonies onto a chorus, but the way that they're mixed is very spacey with a lot of reverb, and it might not even be him who does the harmonies. It's hard for me to tell, but what I like the most about it is that it gives us that taste of the choir, which will be coming in very soon. And the choir is, if the vocal melodies are the best part of the song, the choir is the second best part of the song to me. They utilize the choir extremely well in this song, and it's very cool. So listen for those harmonies here.
Take one look at you, you're taking me out of the ordinary.
It's very soft. Ordinary in the right speaker. I think that's where it's easier to hear it.
I want you laying me down to a dead and buried. On the edge of your knife, staying drunk on your vibe. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found something so wild.
Okay, let's pause there for just a second. I do want to talk about the vocal melody. It's great. It's a fantastic vocal melody in this chorus. It's fast and intense, but there's also a lot of space. The lyrics aren't particularly complicated either, so the average listener can pick up on them pretty quick. On the edge of your knife, staying drunk on your vine. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found. Excuse my singing, but you get what I mean. It's quick, but not so quick to be off-putting. It's intense, but it's got space and levity to it. It packs a punch, but it's a lot of fun to sing. Like I think that's the main point, is like it's a lot of fun to sing along to, but it's not like gimmicky. He's not like rapping. So great melody, really fantastic melody here. So with that said, going into the second chorus, he uses the melody, especially the second half or the last line of the melody, where he says, "The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found." that builds us into the higher octave very naturally, which is cool because the second half of the chorus is basically the same thing or the same melody, just in that higher octave. But now when he ends it there, when he ends the second half of the chorus, it builds up still, but it just sounds very powerful and grand, and it ends on a very like strong note. So what I'm saying is that build up through the melody from the first half to the second half, it builds us up into the next octave. And then when it ends on the second half, it just ends on a strong note because we're just going up, up and up and up still. So I like that. I think that that's all really cool. So then here, let's back it up a little bit and let's hear the second half of the chorus now.
We found something so wild with the ordinary. You got me kissing the ground, with your sanctuary. Shadow me with your touch, oh Lord, return me to dust. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found.
Yeah, so again, are jealous knowing the angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found. Really cool stuff. So a few things here. I'll get to the choir in a second because I think that's the most obvious thing. But first off, a guitar comes in to follow the ukulele here. I think it's right here.
You got me kissing the ground, with your sanctuary. With the ordinary. You got me kissing the ground, with your sanctuary.
Yeah, you can really hear it right there. It's clearly a guitar plucking like steel strings, but it's playing basically the same thing as the ukulele section. Just adds a little bit of extra. I think it might even be like up an octave, but regardless, it just adds it a little more depth, musical depth to it. Makes it sound a little sharper, which can help it cut through because the ukulele is, even though it's a plucked instrument, it's a very smooth instrument because of the nylon strings. So having a steel string guitar play that part really helps it stick out. Listen for it here. It's kind of in the left ear, and it's like tin 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 tin.
You got me kissing the ground, with your sanctuary. Shadow me with your.
Hear how different that sounds with that guitar mixed in. So it, as opposed to the intro, right? Here, just to compare, intro sounds like this. You know, so it's a very different sound, but it works perfectly for a chorus like this where everything is so full. So yeah, with that said, the drums also change to a full kit here. I mentioned that earlier, but take a listen. You'll hear they come in with a big crash cymbal, and then we've got a much sharper, more solid snare kick, and what is 100% a snare drum mixed a little bit more normally.
You got me kissing the ground.
Sorry, back it up.
There's no way we found something so wild.
There's the crash.
The ordinary. You got me
That snare is
kissing the
super
ground,
powerful now.
sanctuary.
Listen to the kick. The kick is much sharper, and it's playing this like da-doom.
In the ground, with your sanctuary. Shadow me with your touch, oh Lord, return me to dust.
So yeah, real drum kit sounds great. Love it. It might not be a real, you know, it's funny. Nowadays, it might not actually be a real drum kit. It's probably a plugin or something, because the plugins just sound so legitimate now. But regardless, it's definitely not it's not intended to sound like a synth drum. It is intended to sound like a real drum kit. So I think aside from that, we'll get into the choir in just a second, but I think musically, those are really the only. There is like a bass note being hit. Hold on, let's back it up just a little bit. I think it's the piano still, but it's like dum dum dum
With the ordinary.
dum
You got me kissing the ground, with your sanctuary. Shadow me with your touch, oh Lord, return me to dust.
Yeah, so there's that piano, and there might be some like background strings or synths happening just to add some space, but it's hard to pick it out of the mix. It would just be ambience though, or yeah, however you say that, ambient noise. So with all of that said, let's talk about the biggest change, which is this choir, which sounds great.
There's no way we found something so wild.
So first off, the choir comes in like that, which is really powerful. It kind of kind of building up into it while he's singing that verse melody, which makes it, you know, it just sounds epic. It sounds really powerful.
The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found something so wild. Will be ordinary. You got me kissing the ground. Will be sanctuary.
Yeah, so it's mixed very quietly in the background, but that's okay. It's still audible. It very much sounds. I shouldn't say it's mixed quietly. It's really not. It's actually pretty audible, and it sounds really cool. I think it really starts to. Well, what am I trying to say here? What I love about the choir on this song is that they don't utilize it in like a normal way. That's very dynamic. It definitely sounds like they brought in a real choir and had like specific compositions for the whole choir and treated it essentially like a new instrument that they had to compose for all throughout this song, which I love. There's going to be a few points as we go through the rest of this song where I'll point out like this is a really cool use of the choir, right? So, but here, just to kind of introduce the choir into to introduce it, they use it, they basically just follow the main vocal melody. So nothing too crazy here, but it is elevating the section pretty significantly. And I think it stands out towards the end here where you can hear, I believe it's I can't remember what they're called. The women, basically, the higher pitched voices, you can hear them in the background, very soulfully singing the words with him. So take a listen. It should be starting about right now. Yeah, you hear that, Lord, you turn me to dust. You can kind of hear like very deep in the background, like it sounds like some very soulful women just belting that out.
Return me to dust. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found.
So yeah, there we go. So the big takeaway with this second half of the chorus is that they made with just a few like very small changes, adding the guitar. Well, I'd say small. The choir is definitely a big change, but even without the choir, by just switching it to a real drum kit, a full drum kit, by adding the guitar and then adding additional bass, even if it's just like the low piano notes, they really can elevate this section big time. It's nothing mind-blowing. The composition overall is not mind-blowing, but the layering is very solid and it leaves a lot of room for the vocal melody, which is a pretty busy vocal melody. So there's a lot of space there for it to breathe, and it's good stuff. Yeah, it all works really well.